Hey, so if you want to be successful in the coding bootcamp, you should watch this video because it's going to give you a roadmap in every step of the way on what to do from the first day to the last and how to get an interview, how to finish the interview, and really it's the complete guide, right? So I'm going to jump right into it. First, we got to know what we're applying for, right? Like, what's the end goal at all this? And a junior developer is a person, a coder specifically, that has these three characteristics. Someone that wants to learn and has the desire to move forward, someone who is capable of learning on their own, and finally, someone that wants to solve a problem in a business, right? Can't just be wanting to solve world hunger with coding, right? So, to do these three things, you need a good learning program, you need motivation, and you need some professional awareness. That's what I call it, you know? Even though you know something may not be the most thrilling or the most enticing, it could still be a really cool problem on a technological level, right? So now that we've established what we're shooting for, let's start day one, right? You need to be the hardest worker in your class because that is the way you will be guaranteed to outpace everyone else, right? We have badges at 1150, and right before we finished the badge, that was an MVC, I had already built out an entire Angular application with routing and HTTP, and it's not Tour of Heroes, like I did it myself. And that is because I was the hardest worker in the class, and I went on 100 miles an hour all the time, and I was motivated. So those two things kind of check off, and it shows that I was able to learn how to learn on my own. And trust me, that was not me. That was all 1150. I give them props because they showed me how to do things on my own, and I'm forever grateful for that, right? So now that you're the hardest worker, this needs to come from somewhere, right? And the next part is sustained motivation. And this sustained motivation could come from not wanting to go back to your old job, or you're trying to get away from a shitty husband or a shitty wife, or you just really want to be a great coder. You know, I want to be a great coder, and that's like a huge motivation for me. And that's the thing that you need to gnaw on all the time. For me, it was, I just want to do something on my own. You know, I just want to get my life together on my own without a ton of crutches and support from everyone else. And I think I did that. Financially, obviously, I needed some crutches, but outside of that, I really did pull myself together. And that was because I had the motivation and the drive. And once you have that drive, this is another piece that you need to set your priorities before you come into this boot camp, right? So when I was a team leader for a little while, I had a teammate that had a wedding coming up, right? That's totally fine. A wedding, it's the Hoosier way of doing things, right? You know, you're like 20 something, you settle down, you have a family. I don't agree with it, but let's just, you know, it's the way it is. So there were a lot of things that happened and a lot of attention that was lost because of this person's priority towards texting back and doing things instantly, right? Instead of saying, okay, well, my career is more important, like right now, let's work on this thing so I can get better at this thing. And it's not to say that, you know, just because you have a wedding, you can be like, you know, heartless or unmotivated just because you're dealing with things. But there's definitely a point where you need to come into this and say, okay, do I want to be the best? Do I want to be successful? If so, then you should really follow this guide because that's how I got a job, and that's how a lot of people in my class are going to get jobs because we're an extremely hardworking class, we're extremely competitive, and we're extremely driven. You know, that's really what it is. And since we had those things, I'm just the first. You know, I will definitely not be the last. And once this is all done, right? Let's say you've gone through the program, you've worked really hard, you've found your motivation, you've set the boot camp as your priority for only 12 weeks. You know, it's not the end of the world. You're now at the point where you should have a basic understanding because you worked hard and you spent your time learning new things. And even if you spend a lot of time recovering the old ones, it doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to be behind everyone else. Because again, it's not about how much you know. It's about, are you able to learn? Are you motivated to learn? And can you solve, or can you know, start learning to contribute to this problem that a business has, right? So I was about 8 weeks in when I hit this point, 7 to 8 weeks. And what the next step is is you need to meet people and you need to let people know who you are, right? So for me, I was a passionate guy who I'm young, I'm energetic, and I'm just a personable person. I'm a little weird, I'm a little crazy, I know. But on a professional level, I was just like, hey, how's it going? Oh, you work on that thing? That's really cool. How'd you do this? Oh, so you're pulling everything in from JSON. Like, how are you parsing this and that? And the key is not your personality, but it's the fact that you ask questions and you seem interested in their answers. Whether they're interesting or not, that's up to you. But at least seem interested, so that way you put your foot in the door and show at least a facade at the very least that you're interested in this industry. And make sure you remember people's names, you shake their hands, and after every meetup, ask, oh, are you hiring any positions at your company, or this and that. And at a lot of the meetups, they'll say in the beginning, like, who's offering a job, who's looking for a job, and you'll be able to put your hand up. And sometimes they'll even let you give an elevator pitch. So have that prepared as well. And what's going to happen after you do this for, whether it's 1 month or it's 4 months, is you don't need to apply to hundreds of jobs, because you're going to shake a guy's hand. You're going to say, oh, hey, Jimmy, how's it going? Nice. Do you know anyone that's hiring right now for junior .NET developers? And he'll say, oh, yeah, actually there's this position at my company, or, I know a guy that's over here. Oh, just email me your resume and I'll send it through to my buddy. That will happen at some point, right? Maybe it's not the first meetup, maybe it's not the second, maybe it's not the third, but as long as you're being personable, as long as you're putting yourself out there, people need software developers. And most importantly, they need senior developers, right? But they still need juniors. And as long as you fit those 3 characteristics, you will be more desirable than 95% of job candidates. There will be the 5% that just, some BS requirement, like, oh, they have a degree, or like, oh, they know concurrent programming and you don't. You know what I mean? But you will have a 95% chance to get through this successfully if you do these things. Now, you get the interview, right? And that's the best part, right? This is the part where you just kick it and knock it out of the park. You need to understand their business a little bit before they come in, right? They're probably going to explain it to you, but when you sit down, these should be your goals. I am going to understand this business, understand this person who's interviewing me, and hopefully it's not an HR person. Hopefully it's like an actual technical person. And I will let them know who I am and what I want to do before I leave this interview. And you can do that in an efficient way by asking questions that return information that you want to know, right? So, what problem is your business trying to solve? What are you currently struggling on right now? What would I be doing on a day-to-day basis? These are questions that you need to ask to show that you're interested in, right? So you could check that first box that, they're at least interested in the business problem. Next, they're going to ask you probably some technical questions. What is this concurrent thing doing? The heap versus the stack. These are all C# kind of questions, but they will ask you technical questions. And as long as you have been the hardest worker and you've been motivated, and you ask your instructors, hey, what are they going to ask me on this interview thing? And you practice and you work hard at that, you should be able to get by. I think killing the technical questions is not the whole point. The whole point is to be a complete, all-around good developer. So how you can do that is when someone asks you a technical question, explain your thought process and talk through the problem. Don't just say, I don't know, or, oh yeah, it's this and that, blah, blah, blah. Explain, okay, well, first I would do this, and then I would do that, and then I would explain this, and I don't understand this thing here, but then I would arrive at this conclusion over there. And that is going to show you 20 times more as a person that can learn, or a person that wants to learn, because you're identifying your thought process, and they're going to see that and they're going to say, oh wow, this guy can think through problems. That's good. That means he'll be able to work through things on his own to some degree, right? And juniors will always need to ask seniors questions, just how it is. But to show that you're at least somewhat autonomous in your learning is a really good step. Now, the last thing is when you talk to all these people, right? So as it nears the end of the interview, if you like how it went, you need to tell them. You need to say, oh, hey, hey, I really like this company. I really like the problem you're working with. Creating software as a solution on Azure, like that's just incredible to me. I'm really motivated and excited to get to work. Or you could say, yeah, I would be really excited to work here, and I look forward to hearing from you. Something along those lines. I don't have the word for word of what I said. I don't think the thing I said at the end got me the job. I think it was a few other things combined. But what did work overall were all the things I said. And I worked about 70 to 80 hours a week when I was like going at it in the boot camp, right? Now, I'm not asking you to be 70 or 80 hours a week. I'm asking you to be the hardest worker and to sustain that, because that is what's going to put you over the edge, not just the numbers. Because there were a lot of hours I spent with my head against the wall on some stupid SQL Server error on my MacBook or some ridiculous thing, right? But what did work were the things I described to you just now. And I really hope that this video gave you a concise and desirable roadmap to follow. The thing I wanted to end with is that it's not magic. If you do these things, you will get a job if you're diligent and you're patient. But if you try and skew it away and try and do these other things that are like magic pills, like, oh, if you learn like JavaScript instead of Python, or .NET instead of Python, or .NET instead of JavaScript, you'll like have a better, job, or like, yeah, switch now. That's not the answer. The answer is going through these steps and trying to be the best junior software developer you can be, not just language specific, not just this or that. Understand the basics, work your way up, be a complete developer. And that's what I think got me in the door. That's what's going to get a lot of my classmates in the door. And those are the steps, guys. It's not complicated, but it is hard. And if you're motivated, I don't see why you can't do it. If you only work 40 hours a week at it, then I get it. But thankfully, if you're watching this video and you've been through this whole thing, you know that you're not one of those people. And I'm really excited for you to start on your journey. So as always, everything is going great in the Perry life, and I hope everything's going great in yours. And I just want to say I really appreciate all you guys that watch this video. And if you're interested in more content like this, subscribe down below. And if you think this video was helpful, give it a like. If you think that there was something I missed, drop a comment down below. I'd love to answer it, And any more questions you have, feel free to ask them. Love all those questions. Have a good one, guys. Peace.